Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Time to Football podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to preview the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, talk about some news that's going on in the league, give you injury updates, as well as discuss a hot topic that's amongst the NFL community, including Cody Parkey's missed field goal. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I said whoever threw that paper, your mom's a... My name is Hassan Khan. I am the founder, director, creator, host, sound operator. Pretty much I'm saying I am a very lonely man here at Time to Football, but I'm not so lonely anymore, as I'm being joined by you guys on this Time to Football podcast. And we've got to talk about the NFL on this episode, but outside of the NFL, what else happened this week? The national championship, college football, Clemson, Alabama, shocking result. Alabama being blown out, 44-16. I was discussing earlier this week with my girlfriend, so believe it or not, I'm actually not so lonely as you may think. And she's from Alabama, so she's an Alabama fan. And for me, I didn't really have a preference on who I was rooting for. But I was leaning towards Clemson because Trevor Lawrence is from Georgia. I'm a Georgia fan. I'm from here. This is where this show is based out of. And he is from Cartersville, Georgia, which is just about an hour and a half away from us. So I was kind of rooting for him to win that game so it would give credibility to Georgia. And you can hear on the podcast my voice cracked because that's how much confidence I have in the state of Georgia and their sports teams. With the Falcons, the Hawks, the Braves, the Bulldogs. Great times. But we appreciate you guys tuning in to the Time to Football podcast. If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes, just know that we have this podcast up on YouTube. I'm waving into the camera right now. And you can see the video podcast up on there, and we have graphics that go along with it. But vice versa, if you're listening to this on YouTube, just go to the podcast app on your phone, search Time to Football, and listen to us on the go, because it kind of sucks to watch a 30-minute video. I'm pretty sure at this point right now, when you guys tune into this video, and we're looking at it, and it's like, oh, this is 30 minutes long of this guy talking? Forget this. But I'm telling you, you can listen to me on the way to work. You can listen to me when you're working out at the gym. Give you that extra motivation. If you're at the gym right now, come on, bump it. You can do it. You know that Arnold Schwarzenegger phrase where he says, I'm not going to reference it any further because it's a sexual innuendo, but for you guys that work out, you know what I'm talking about. But we introduced a segment last week called Mind-Blowing Facts, where we just talked about some mind-blowing facts in the NFL. That's it. Pretty simple, right? So this week, we're going to go ahead with our segment, Mind-Blowing Facts.
Wow.
That was Owen Wilson that you heard saying...
Wow.
So I mentioned this last week. I got an app on my laptop now about how it's pretty much like a soundboard on here. So I can make any sound that I want. So this sound, or I can go back to...
Wow.
Or even... So it's pretty cool that I get to play around with that. But we've got some mind-blowing facts for you guys that's related to each game in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Let's go ahead and read them off. And after we read off each fact, you're going to hear...
Wow.
Because it's pretty amazing. So, fact number 1. The Colts and the Chiefs play this Saturday. This will be the 5th meeting between the two teams in the postseason. Indianapolis is 4-0 against the Chiefs in the playoffs.
Wow.
That's actually pretty crazy to think. The last time they faced was in 2013 when Andrew Luck had that great come-from-behind victory and helped propel the Colts to the divisional round. Fact number 2. The Rams and the Cowboys faced later that night. The Cowboys and Rams have faced 9 times in the postseason, but this is their first postseason matchup in 33 years. The last time they faced was the 1985 NFC Divisional Playoffs.
Wow.
Great stuff that we've got there. Fact number 3 for the next game, the Sunday games, the Chargers and Patriots last faced in the playoffs during the 2007 season. Patriots won that game, but Phillip Rivers played through the whole game with a torn ACL.
Wow.
So, lots of grit by Rivers. The last time the Saints and Eagles faced in the playoffs was 2013, which the Saints won. But that was the last postseason game that Nick Foles had lost. He's 4-0 in the playoffs since then, and he's always getting a reputation or building a reputation for himself as being this great postseason quarterback. So they're facing this week, so let's see if he can get over the New Orleans Saints. The last fact we've got for you is a little history being made by Patriots quarterback Tom Brady. Brady is the NFL's all-time postseason leader in games played, which is 37 games he's played. Wins, he's won 27 postseason games. Passing yards, 10,226. And touchdown passes. He's thrown 71 touchdown passes in the postseason, which leads all quarterbacks all time in NFL history.
Wow.
In the postseason. So those were your mind-blowing facts for this week. Now let's get into some news that's being talked about in the NFL, and this all relates to head coaching hires. That's all we're going to talk about. First one we've got Matt LaFleur to the Green Bay Packers. This was the first head coaching hire that was announced so far. The Titans offensive coordinator, who didn't have a great year for the Titans, but previously he was the quarterback's coach for Matt Ryan when he won the MVP, and he was able to help Sean McVay develop a great offense. So he's an offensive-minded coach. He's 39 years old. Let's see if LaFleur can do anything with Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. Next head coaching hire we've got is Bruce Arians is coming out of retirement to be the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Arians retired not last year, but the year prior to that, after he was with the Arizona Cardinals, and he decided to come back, and he's leading the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now, and he's trying to assemble the same staff that he had in Arizona. Todd Bowles is going to be the defensive coordinator for the Cardinals, and Byron Leftwich will be the offensive coordinator. The next head coaching hire, we've got Cliff Kingsbury, who his most recent position was the offensive coordinator for USC, was only the coordinator for about a month and a half before he accepted a job with the Arizona Cardinals. Kingsbury will be leaving the college ranks and be going to the NFL, and this is his first NFL head coaching position. Fourth hire, Vic Fangio to the Denver Broncos, defensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. Very good coach, very discipline-minded. He's going to be the head coach of the Denver Broncos. And the last head coaching hire, Freddie Kitchens to the Cleveland Browns. So this was shocking because a lot of people thought that Greg Williams, after going 5-3 as the interim head coach, would have a shot at being the Browns head coach. But Freddie Kitchens, the offensive coordinator for the Browns, gets promoted to be the head coach in Cleveland. So shocking stuff we've got right there. 5 head coaching hires so far, and by the time you listen to this podcast, it might be even more. So that's 5 head coaching vacancies already decided, and we've got 3 more. Now we're going to get into some injury news prior to the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, starting off with Melvin Gordon. So he has been banged up all year. This time it's his knee. He hurt it in that game against Baltimore, but it's expected that he will play this Sunday. Allen Hurns, Cowboys wide receiver, ankle injury, did not look pretty. He's placed on injured reserve, and hopefully he can get better sometime soon. Hunter Henry. So I reported last week that Hunter Henry would be coming back in that game against the Ravens. They decided to keep him on that injury report for a little bit longer, but now they finally activate him, and he's going to be playing this Sunday against the Patriots. Cole Beasley, ankle injury. He's day-to-day. So Tavon Austin also is dealing with an injury, so they're pretty thin at the wide receiver position, especially with Allen Hurns now on IR. Todd Gurley hasn't played since week 15. Knee injury. He was limited in practice this week, but the go-to sign is that he's going to play this Saturday. T.Y. Hilton, ankle injury, did not practice, but the story for him all season long is that he misses practice all week, and then he goes out there and gets like 130 yards receiving. So we're not too worried about him, Hilton, but it's important to watch that he did not practice. Eric Berry, safety for the Chiefs, heel injury, he was limited in practice. He's expected to play. And Mike Mitchell, a calf injury. He was placed on IR, safety for the Colts. Will not be playing later this season. And those were your injury news prior to the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Now we're going to get into weekly picks. But the first game that we're going to talk about is that first Saturday game, the Indianapolis Colts versus the Kansas City Chiefs. The Colts, they dominated on the offensive line. Last week I said that was going to be the key matchup, is the Colts offensive line versus the Texans defensive line. And Quentin Nelson and the Colts offensive line dominated. And that's going to be key this game as well. Trying to block guys as Chris Jones or Dee Ford, prevent them from getting to Andrew Luck. Let's see if that can happen. On the other side, Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes having a great year. That Colts defense, they've gotten better over the last few weeks. So let's see if Mahomes can slice it up and beat them. For me, my pick in this game, I am going with the Kansas City Chiefs. I really like them. Their offense is phenomenal. I know their defense is ranked 31st, and that's going to be great for the Indianapolis Colts offense. But I'm still picking the Chiefs offense led by Patrick Mahomes to beat the Colts and advance to the AFC Championship game. So let's see who you guys believe, for you guys that voted on Instagram. So the results are up. 71% are leaning towards the Chiefs and 29% are with the Colts. Last week, you guys said 25% going with the Colts and 75% were going with the Texans, and that was a big margin. And the Colts ended up upsetting the Texans. Now, you guys are still strongly against the Colts. Let's see if the Colts can pull off that upset. Next game, Cowboys versus Rams. Dak Prescott wins his first playoff game of his career. For the Rams, one of the best ranked offenses in the league, and not too bad of a defense. I know that their secondary has been questionable, but not a bad team, and they're heavily favored to win this game. So I think it's going to come down to the matchup between Todd Gurley and Ezekiel Elliott. Who's going to have the better run game, and whoever runs the ball more effectively will win the game. Last week I said that about the Cowboys and the Seahawks, and it ended up being the Cowboys that ran the ball more effectively, and they won. Same thing applies here. Who is going to run the ball more effectively? And I personally am going to pick the Rams. I think Todd Gurley, you're going to see a battle of two of the best running backs in the NFL right now. Even though Gurley is coming off of his knee injury, that passing attack could pick up the slack if Gurley were to get injured again. So, the Time of Football faithful, let's see who you guys choose. 66% are rooting for the Rams to win this game, and 34% are going with the Cowboys. We doubted the Cowboys last week, so let's see if they can pull off the underdog victory and beat the Rams. The Sunday games, the Chargers versus Patriots. Phillip Rivers pulling off that game, or that victory against that Baltimore defense, relying on money Michael Badgley to make those field goals and win that game. For the Patriots, they haven't been looking themselves this year. So let's see if Tom Brady and that offense can go back to greatness, because they've been above average. I'll give them credit where credit's due, but they haven't been elite, or they haven't been great. But Tom Brady, one of the best postseason quarterbacks, you can trust him, and I think the Patriots are going to make this a very close game. And it's just going to be a very close game because I'm picking the Chargers to win this game. The Chargers, all season long, before the season even started, I said the Chargers were going to the Super Bowl and that Phillip Rivers is going to ride into the sunset, call it a career, and I'm still picking the Chargers to make the Super Bowl. So, let's see who you guys, the Time to Football faithful, are picking to win this game. Unreal. This is actually really shocking. The Patriots are favored to lose, according to you fans. 48% are picking the Patriots and 52% are picking the Chargers. I like the Chargers. I think it's going to be a close game, and the fan voting is pretty close, but I think the Patriots are the favorite, honestly, to win this game. But so far, we're all agreeing on the picks. We picked the Chiefs to beat the Colts. We both picked the Rams to beat the Cowboys, and we both picked the Chargers to beat the Patriots. So we're all on the same page right here. Let's see if we're on the same page with the fourth game, the Eagles versus the Saints. Nick Foles, like I mentioned on top of the broadcast, last time he lost a playoff game was in 2013 when he lost to the Saints. And he had that magical season where he threw 27 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions. For the Saints, last few weeks of the season, Drew Brees hasn't been himself. He hasn't been at that great status, but it's not so much because the Saints have been bad, but more so they just haven't been needing him. They've been relying on Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram to get them by and for them to win games. So, I personally am picking the Saints to beat the Eagles. I believe that the postseason magic for Nick Foles stops here and that he won't be able to beat the New Orleans Saints, who have a better defense than most people think. But for you guys, the Time to Football fans, let's see if you guys agree with me and we can be 4-4 and be on the same page with all of our picks. And we are. 67% of you guys are picking the Saints to win this game, and 33% are leaning towards Philadelphia and the Eagles. Yes, I purposely said Philadelphia. I didn't stutter or mess up on that. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's a great place on earth. Listen, guys, we're going to go ahead and get into our hot topic that we talk about in the NFL, and we've also got fan questions that we're going to answer later on in the podcast, but we want to take a moment to mention Patreon. Patreon is the best way to support your favorite content creator, videographer, podcaster, model, content creator, whatever it is. You sign up on patreon.com and you can go ahead and it's like a GoFundMe every month. You choose how much you want to pledge to your favorite content creator. You guys have been phenomenal in supporting us in Patreon. We've already got a few people that signed up, and it's really helping out a lot. I'm kidding you not. It's even though it's not too much revenue, all of that revenue goes towards Time to Football and the growth of this channel, and we're just getting bigger and bigger, and all of that is because of you guys not only watching our product, but also supporting us in ways like Patreon. If you sign up, you go to patreon.com/timetofutball, you can read up on all of the perks. So depending on how much you give, depends on how many perks you get. For giving something as little as $1 a month, that is it. It's what, $12 a year? $24 over a span of 2 years? That's nothing. If you gave $1 a month, if everyone that listened to this podcast or watched this podcast or was subscribed to this channel gave $1 a month, we would have enough revenue to grow Time to Football tremendously. And we really appreciate everything that you've given us so far. But for you guys that want to contribute, that is patreon.com/time to football. Patreon.com/time to football. This is part of the show where we talk about a hot topic in the NFL. And when I was writing the show, I wrote down that I wanted to talk about Cody Parkey. This was Monday that I was writing this. And there was so much backlash, and I had so much to say about it that I thought to myself, I can't wait till Wednesday, till the show comes out to talk about it. I want to talk about it right now. So I went ahead, got my camera up, sat behind the desk, and I was like, I'm going to talk about this segment, and then I'll incorporate it later into the podcast. So we came out with that video on Monday. So if you guys already watched that video talking about Cody Parkey's missed field goal, you could go ahead and skip this part. If you're watching on YouTube, in the comment section, I've listed timestamps of like where the next segment is, which is fan questions. So you can go ahead and click on that and skip over. But for you guys that did not have a chance to watch that video, we're going to go ahead and roll this footage, and we'll get back with you guys. So tune in. The segment that I want to talk about, it's about Chicago Bears kicker Cody Parkey. Parkey has kicked for the Philadelphia Eagles and the Miami Dolphins in the past before landing in Chicago with a 4-year, $50 million contract. Just to say how it is, he hasn't been the most accurate kicker this season. As a matter of fact, against his former team, the Miami Dolphins, earlier this year, he missed a potential game-winning field goal in overtime. Not potential, it was going to be a game-winning field goal. He missed that against the Miami Dolphins and cost the Chicago Bears that game. And then last night, against his other former team, the Philadelphia Eagles, where he went to the Pro Bowl for, he lost in dramatic fashion because he missed a game-winning field goal that would have propelled the Chicago Bears to advance in the NFC playoffs and face the Los Angeles Rams next week. So this is actually very interesting because a lot of negativity has been surrounding Parkey. As a matter of fact, as Parkey was exiting Soldier Field through the tunnel, he was going through a sea of boos by the Chicago faithful. And it wasn't so much that reaction from the fans at Soldier Field, but more so the reactions of the fans on social media that explains what is wrong with the world today. Now, it's 2019. Everybody nowadays is extremely sensitive, and I hate it. I really do. Everybody has to be so PC, politically correct, and watch everything that they say so that they don't offend anyone. But then there comes a time when you can be crossing the line, such as, for example, giving death threats to Cody Parkey. Is that not crossing the line? NFL athletes have jobs, and the only difference between their jobs and our jobs is that they're put in a different light, that they are exposed, that if they do something wrong, make a bad play, mess up, whatever, people are so quick to criticize and be negative. They are the first ones to post a negative comment. They are the first ones to like that negative comment. So many people will like that. So many people will leave the laughing reaction emoji that you see on Facebook that isn't used whenever something is legitimately funny, more so than it is when they're trying to mock somebody. And that's just the way it works. Don't believe me? Let's use a couple of examples. First off, with another NFL athlete, Tony Romo. Romo, who's often been criticized his entire NFL career for having fourth quarter blunders and choking and giving up these fourth quarter leads and not being able to perform comebacks, even though statistically he's one of the best fourth quarter quarterbacks in NFL history. But people don't focus on that. People just see that in the last 2 minutes, a game gets lost when Tony Romo is the quarterback. There's a specific game in 2013 when he faced the Denver Broncos. The final outcome of that game was that Romo threw 500 yards and 5 touchdowns to keep pace with the eventual MVP of that year, Peyton Manning of the Denver Broncos. 500 yards and 5 touchdowns is what it took to put this game close because it was 48-51. Romo, with less than 2 minutes, made one critical mistake, and that was throwing an interception and ending that game for the Cowboys. So they ended up losing because of that Romo interception. But if it weren't for Romo throwing 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, would they even be at that point where they could win that game? Makes you wonder. And with Cody Parkey, for him, not scoring 9 points, accounting for more than half of the Chicago Bears' points yesterday, scoring 3 field goals earlier in the game, and just missing one because the Chicago Bears' defense couldn't stop Nick Foles and Golden Tate from scoring a touchdown, or the Chicago Bears' offense couldn't put more points on the board than just 1 touchdown. Would they even be in the position to win that game if it weren't for Cody Parkey. But people would disregard that. People would disregard that. People would disregard that the ball was tipped and go ahead and post something negative and just see him in a negative light. They'll criticize people at their job. And if you criticize someone at their job, and if you criticize an NFL athlete especially for doing their job, what's the difference between you and a 40-year-old mom that wants to speak to that manager that has that one haircut? What's the difference? For you people that worked in retail, you know what I'm saying. You do your job. There's that one person that says, no, you're doing a bad job. You're terrible. And they just come at you with anger and they want to speak to a manager. What's the difference? So the point is, Cody, whether it was Parkey's fault or not, he doesn't watch Time to Football. Maybe he does. I don't know. But Cody, I got a message for you, man. Keep your head up. Because if it weren't for you, you did enough that you can to put 9 points on the board, and prior to that, help you lead your team to a 12-4 record and get your team to the playoffs. You did enough that you could to help your team make the playoffs for the first time since 2010, and you have already accomplished more than 99% of those guys behind their phones that comment those bad things. You've accomplished more in life than those 99%. And that was my reaction to people's reaction of Cody Parkey's missed field goal. Yeah, it came out an hour or two afterwards that the ball was tipped. But it sucks that even before we found that out, tip ball or not, that he got that much backlash spewed towards him. Sports fans nowadays, man, just more negativity than positive. But we're trying to get out of that somber mood and let's talk about something positive, and that's fan questions. So we love interacting with you guys on social media, and we ask you guys on social media to ask your questions, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, whatever it is. Ask your questions. We're going to pick a few of them and answer them on air. We've got a lot of questions submitted this week. We're not going to have a chance to answer all the questions, but we picked out a few, and don't worry, if your question doesn't get answered this week, we save those questions. We don't delete them. We save them. We're going to answer them another week, okay? But question number one, this is on Instagram, and this is from the username Big Bat Ben. Number one, do you think the Seahawks could have won if Seabass did not hurt himself? Yeah, in that game against the Cowboys, at the end of the first half, he pulled his hamstring when he was going for a field goal, and that field goal ended up being missed. So if he didn't hurt himself, it might have been made. And if that were the case, yeah, it's hard to say, because when the Seahawks were coming back down by 10 points and they scored a touchdown to make it 20-24, they decided to go for 2 points, and they got the 2-point conversion. It was 22-24 was the final outcome of the game. But if they got the extra point because Seabass was healthy, it would have been 21-4. As a matter of fact, prior to that, in the first half, if he didn't pull his hammy, he would have made that field goal, and it would have been 24-24, and the game would have gone into overtime. So at overtime, who knows what would have happened? But yeah, they would have had a better chance of winning that game if Seabass didn't get hurt. Question number two. This is from our very own David Hendricks, who helps out with a lot of videography, more cinematic projects that we do on Time to Football. Helped out with some of the graphics as well. David_E11 asks, does Shaq not get booty because girls think he is too big? He intended to say think, but it says, does Shaq not get booty because girls think he is too big? What thing you talking about? That's a good one. I think so. I think girls want a good height. They want a tall guy, but when you're too tall, that just, I don't know. I'm not a girl. I don't know. I'm not attracted to men. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But It's a good question. I would say that, yeah, he probably does have trouble getting booty because he is pretty big. So thank you, David, for your question. Question 3. Who is your favorite player? So this is surprising, but I'm a Falcons fan. So you would think I would say Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, maybe even Devontae Freeman. No, actually, it is Matt Bosher, the punter for the Atlanta Falcons. So I've been with the punters are people for the brand movement long before it became a thing. I was with them back in like 2012, 2013. I was like, kickers and punters need more love. And my favorite team were the Atlanta Falcons. And I really loved Matt Bosher. I was like, this guy doesn't get enough love, and he's a really good punter. To the fact that I've been to some Falcons practices, and I was like, every single Falcons practice that I go to, every single year they have one specific practice that they have in a high school. It's like a big event. It's called Friday Night Lights. I'm like, at that Friday Night Lights event, every single year, I'm going to get a selfie with them. So let's go ahead and show that picture of the selfies I have of Matt Bosher. If you're watching on the video podcast, you can see right there, I'm a big Matt Bosher fan. I was a Matt Bosher fan before he had that tackle against the Carolina Panthers. You know that clothesline / rock bottom combo? Yeah, I knew him. I loved him way before that. So, Matt Bosher is my favorite player, believe it or not. Question 4. This is by the username. Question 3, the username was Blake_Cialo, which is SCIALO. But question 4, username is Ninja_in_training. Or actually, training. TRANING. That's it's a controversial word. Training. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's 2019. You have to say that. Who do you want to see in the Super Bowls? Well, the Super Bowl is singular. I would love to see, like I said, Phillip Rivers and the Los Angeles Chargers. Sorry, I slip up all the time. Phillip Rivers and the LA Chargers on the AFC side. On the NFC side, I don't know yet. It would be cool to see Drew Brees just because I respect Drew Brees a lot. He's a really good guy, and that quarterback battle, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, would be phenomenal in the Super Bowl. Chargers, Saints, that'd be great. But for sure, the Chargers, I have them going to the Super Bowl. Question 5, this is from Jean_Figuera_10. Where is your organization, bro? Meaning where we based out of. We're based out of Atlanta, Georgia. Probably a suburb. It's a suburb called Tequila, Georgia. It's my hometown. About 45 minutes to an hour outside of Atlanta. Question 6. Booninator. How come the first responders don't get paid as much as pro athletes? Man, that's a deep question. I don't know. I don't determine salary and all that, but you've got a point. Pro athletes, I was going to say they put... This is going to sound bad. They do put their bodies on the line. I know not to the extent of like first responders, but, at any point their careers could end from an injury. So maybe they're trying to prepare them for the future. But for first responders, I think they should probably get paid more than they actually do. But yeah, thanks to all the first responders out there and everything that you guys do for everyone across the globe. Let's get one more in. This is from another guy that works with us on Time of Football, Jojo Patton. I am Jojo Patton says, I have had only a few gay thoughts. Is this something of concern? I'm married. Joe, I think you should really bring that up with your wife. I think transparency and being honest with Sarah Jane would be smart. So I think you should be very open and honest with her and let her know about that. And if you guys decide that this is something that you can't, get over, or you think it's affecting your marriage, you could seek some counseling. Not that there's anything wrong with being gay, but if it's affecting your marriage, see a marriage counselor and go about that. See if what's the right choice for you guys in your marriage. So those were fan questions, and that brings us to the end of this show. So we appreciate you guys riding along with us the entire way. If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes, make sure you go hop over to YouTube. We have a lot more video content throughout the week. Subscribe to us on there, and vice versa on YouTube. Search on the podcast app, Time to Football, and subscribe to us on there and listen to us on the go. But regardless of what platform you're listening to us podcast on, make sure you go check us out on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. The username for everything is Time to Football. Whatever it is, search Time to Football. Easy to find. Follow us on there and interact with us on social media. We appreciate you guys tuning in to the Time to Football podcast, and enjoy the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. And remember, if you are pretty big like Shaq is, you might have some trouble getting booty. Take care.